Good morning, everybody. In the past, I have made a video about a character designed to use only the chain attack from CHAAAAAIIIINNNNN. You may remember this video from its signature line of chains. The idea behind it was to take one of the worst ideas in the entire game, literally the CHAAAAAIIIINNNNN, something that has almost no scaling on its abilities, and just try to use the chain attack because it was a gimmick. The inspiration comes from the fact that the CHAAAAAIIIINNNN that you actually fight in-game are really strong and their chains nearly instant kill you, but for some insanely bizarre reason, your chains actually do nothing. So I wanted to put it together, see how it would work, and the answer is it doesn't really work. Now, I don't need to reference that video, although I will link it below. What matters is that with Update 50, there's been a huge change to the chain's abilities. Number one, you don't have to buy it anymore. Now, you actually just get it for being a CHAAAAAIIIINNNN. This is a huge boon because it means that every single person that is actually playing as a CHAAAAAAIIIINNNN can use the chain, which makes sense. It's kind of their signature thing. But on top of that, it also means that every single person that is out here with a desire to do some area of effect damage now has an effective tool, given that it uses a light weapon to do an area of effect cleave. Before, it was like a spell almost that had a flat amount of damage. Now, it just counts as a weapon attack against all nearby targets. So while it doesn't make an entire amount of sense that the chain does the same damage as your main hand weapon, at the end of the day, it's very good, and it fulfills the role of being a powerful attack that is intimidating and also just rips enemies apart. The entire tree, however, was also revamped, not just the one chain attack being taken out of the tree. The point costs were reduced, so the tree is significantly cheaper than it was before. Additionally, there is now a displacement spell-like ability, which is phenomenal for any type of character, especially a rogue, for sneaking about and trying to keep themselves protected during the general leveling process and all through the endgame. And there's now a super ultra mega chain attack that you can get all the way up for 17 points deep in the tree. That gives you an extra +2 critical threat range and multiplier on your regular chain attack. It's amazing and very powerful, and being able to go chain 1 into chain 2, it's super strong. Not only that, these abilities scale like more modern cleave attacks in that they actually get an increased amount of attack speed on the chain based on your actual attack speed that you have. All of this comes together to allow the CHAAAAAAIIIINNNN to excel in an area that it previously didn't excel before, and to give a new life to classes that generally excel in single target but don't have any area to speak of. You see, one of the main issues with playing any type of rogue is that rogues are single target machines. Dual wielding, rogues are able to do tremendous amounts of damage, and they're some of the highest damage things you can even play in the entire game. However, area of effect is kind of where they start to fall apart. Sure, you can assassinate 2 targets in a row, and sure, you could play as a Thief Acrobat, but a lot of people might not want to play as a Thief Acrobat, which was buffed in the last patch, mind you, but still, people like the idea of a sneak around dual-wielding rogue. And on top of that, in combination with Vistani Knife Fighter, Assassin just kind of makes a lot of sense. Cool animations, strong dagger skills, but you're still missing out on that area of effect. The chain attack only allows you to use a light weapon, and daggers qualify, but there's another weapon that also qualifies, which is the Kukri. Now, there's lots of light weapons, but the reason why Kukri comes up here is because Kukri is one of the other weapons that assassins can use. Assassin rogues use both daggers and Kukris, and so for the character that I wanted to try it out with, I wanted to see what would happen if I tried to use a single weapon instead of 2. You see, the chain attack only uses your main hand weapon. It doesn't include your offhand weapon, so you don't need to worry about what's actually in your offhand at all. As a result, increasing the amount of damage that your main hand weapon does actually increases the damage that your chain does, and increasing the attack speed also increases the speed at which the chain goes around and the faster the animation goes. So I tried single weapon fighter chains build. Now this character was played as a pure rogue, and with my new main character, Strimtom, and it's actually its first life. I played through the game for the majority of the time on Elite difficulty, and then splashing into Reaper here and there, so I ended up with 6 Reaper points by the time I was able to hit level 20, and this character started at level 1 because I created it on the Hardcore League, and then transferred it over at level 1, so it didn't actually need to auto-level all the way up to level 15. Now leveling this character was extremely quick and painless, as the character is extremely defensive, having high dodge because you're a rogue, high displacement because you're a CHAAAAAIIIINNNN, you just get access to displacement, and then even getting more incorporeality from the CHAAAAAAIIIINNN tree. This character was so tanky, I almost never took any damage. The only downside to this character is that I didn't have a lot of healing, because of course I was playing as a rogue, but that didn't really matter too much. For the most part, I could just use my chain attack to rip monsters apart. Oftentimes it definitely felt like a cheat code, and by the time I got the second chain attack, going chain 1 into chain 2 cleared pretty much every single room that I came across. There were some exceptions, especially as I started to move into the higher level quests like Sharn, but it was extremely effective during pretty much the entire leveling process. The path that I chose for this character was to work into the Shader Kai tree as soon as possible. So instead of spending points in the Assassin tree or anywhere else, I wanted to get the Shader Kai chain stuff out of the way so I could actually test it and see how well it performs. Now, while granted, the information of knowing how well Shader Kai chains is going to work at level 3 and 4 probably isn't that useful to most of you who are playing Shader Kai starting at level 15, but hardcore might roll around again and that may be interesting to you. Using dexterity to hit and damage, single weapon fighting, and a Q-Cree, I was able to have a very hard-hitting chain attack that could hit 3 times and hit very, very fast. Having both chain attacks by level 7 allowed me to overrun any large packs of monsters. Now, while I was playing as a single target character for the most part, I didn't actually use the chain attack on bosses unless there was other adds nearby. Of course, instead preferring to just use my Shiv or improved feint and then sneak attack them super quick, choppy. It leveled very, very quickly, not just because it had the AoE, but also because of the ability to deal with traps. This character was great because I don't usually play rogues, so I don't usually get that 30% bonus to experience points from completing each individual quest. Now, I didn't try to shy away from any content with this character, so anything if I thought it was challenging, I would still run into it, because I wanted to be able to stress test out how good the Shader Kai actually is. So all the way through Epics, on my first life character that had no Epic Destinies leveled up, I also ran through Epic Elite all the time, all over the place. Many different quests, Epic Elite, Reaper Mode, Giant Hold, pretty much every single quest in Evening Star. I was just throwing everything at the wall to see what would happen. And I gotta say, the sneak attack plus the chain has incredible results. Assuming that you're playing in a group and you're not the first one to enter aggro range with any of the monsters that are nearby, your character is going to walk up, be invisible, someone pulls aggro, and then while you chain, your entire chain is going to get the sneak attack damage. However, if you can chain one and then use chain two immediately after that, your character is going to get so much sneak attack damage, you'll usually completely clear rooms. I'm talking playing in Shirati Champion and still doing upwards of 4,000 to 5,000 damage in a very, very short period of time. It's kind of bizarre how much damage this character is able to do with almost no gear, in the wrong destinies, and no past lives. Now, is this the absolute best thing? I am not sure. It's definitely very helpful, but there's a lot of reasons for you to play different races when you're trying to play as a rogue or anything else. However, I think the versatility of the chain attack is too good to ignore. This character is able to get a ton of area of effect when you normally wouldn't have any, and having that extra little bit of versatility, as well as just helping your mind be at ease when you're surrounded by monsters in so many different quests, especially all the newer ones that just kind of throw packs of guys at you, not being only single target based is a blessing. Now the real question comes up, okay, so obviously it's going to work well for the rogue. Rogue, you want to use light weapons, but how else is it going to be good? What other classes can benefit? And that's a great question. While I was doing it, I had many other people also trying it out with me and kind of telling me about the character builds that they had come up with and the things that they thought were interesting. Among the notable lists were Eldritch Knight. Since the chain attack is actually just a regular attack, your Eldritch Knight extra damage propagates onto each individual hit from the chain. Combining that with Eldritch Tempest and Eldritch Strike, you become an AoE machine, constantly spinning in circles, dealing tremendous amounts of damage to all nearby enemies, which was pretty cool. To take it a step beyond that, there's actually a build I would love to try with this character. There's a build I've been talking about for a while, and I call it the Super Crit Swashbuckling Barbarian, and the idea is you get 3 levels of Bard, which gives you access to Swashbuckling. You get 5 levels of Barbarian, and that gives you access to the Frenzied Berserker tree. When you equip a hand axe as a swashbuckler, you get +2 critical threat range on your hand axe, and it also makes it so that when you have improved critical, it also doubles that as well, making your hand axe go from a 20 times 3 to a 15 to 20 times 3, which is a lot. However, the Frenzied Berserker is even more powerful because it gives you +2 critical threat multiplier on your attacks in the tier 5. This is a weird scenario because the hand axe is unaffected by critical multiplier bonuses from Swashbuckler, as there is none there, so these two effects stack up to give you a ×5 critical with an extremely wide range. And since you're single weapon fighting, you just start smashing everything. You stack up strength, and you hit people really, really hard. Now, of course, there's all sorts of different ways you can take this character. One of the builds that I wanted to try was a 3 Bard, 12 Barbarian, 5 Cleric build, where you spend almost all of your points in the Frenzied Berserker tree. You get as much strength as possible. You take the Animal Domain out of Cleric, or the Strength Domain. Strength Domain would give you strength to your reflex saves. Animal Domain would give you a whole bunch of hit points. And basically, by stacking strength, you just kind of crit people back in time. However, doing this on a Shader Kai means you get everything I just said, all of that juicy single target damage, that crazy critical threat range, all the strength, except you also get the chain attack, since the chain attack works with hand axes, which is a light weapon. allowing me to have this crazy critical threat range and profile and slamming into monsters with these chain attacks. It's even more important to note that the chain attacks here, especially the big one, add +2 critical threat range and multiplier, which would turn this attack into a 13 to 20 times 7. If that doesn't sound like it's too much, it is. It is too much. As far as super endgame performance goes, I didn't play a lot of super endgame with my character. However, I did try to run some R10s to try to see how it feels different between update 50 and update 49. And I can say with confidence that there are some rogues out there that can do some crazy stuff with the chain attack. Now, I don't think that the chain attack is too strong. It just kind of suffers from the problem of its erasal ability. And since it's a racial ability, you're always going to run into the issue of characters who have all of the racial enhancement points able to get these things for free and kind of do things that most other players can't. I think the place that it's currently in, it's pretty balanced. It just becomes sort of unbalanced if you have all of the racial points. However, I really don't think that Dungeons & Dragons Online should balance itself around the idea that the majority of the players are running out with 16 racial points, because they're not. Most people don't have the ability to spend on every single thing in the entire tree, and I think that's a good idea to make sure that cool abilities still exist in these trees. So while I don't think that it's overpowered in any capacity, I do think that it can be kind of goofy that somebody can get access to the chain attack and the greater chain attack for almost no investment if they have all the racial points. But hey, that's how racial points do at this point. I'm sure you wonder if we're going to get more, but I don't know. Anyways, if you've been liking what you've been seeing and you like the way that I'm talking about this character, let me pass it over to me with the build. Now, if you want to make a character that's off the chains, make sure you tune in here, because I'm going to teach you all you need to know about what's going on with this chains build and how to make one for yourself. To get started, this is Strimtom, my first life Shatter Kai rogue, made it all the way to level 30. I will be doing a full completionist and racial completionist with this character. However, along the way, I'll be sharing with you all the character builds that I do. This is a dexterity-based rogue. Dexterity being the main focus because Shader Kai get a bonus to dexterity, and as a first life character I figured just go with what's good. I already get a bonus to dex, why not keep dex? Additionally, the assassin part of the rogue tree actually allows me to keep everything dexterity. Dexterity to hit and damage, dexterity to reflex saves, dexterity to armor class, dexterity to open lock. It's pretty good. The only other stat you really need is Constitution and Intelligence. Constitution is a no-brainer, it gives you health, and Intelligence is a no-brainer because it's a big brainer. You got lots of intelligence for that big brain, and also doing your disabling and searching and what have you. Now, this character is not particularly defensive for the most part. I have a lot of cool utility defense abilities that keep me alive, and especially through normal, hard, and elite, very, very strong. Things that might fade off as you get into Reaper mode, but we'll talk about that a little bit more as we move on. First, let's talk about the skills. This character gets a billion different skill points because you're playing as a rogue. So the main ones that matter: use magic device, spot, search, open lock, and disable device. You can also level up jump. I personally leveled up jump because you won't have magic, so getting access to higher jump is just really nice during the leveling process. So jump is always something you can do. Additionally, balance is a good option because balance prevents you from getting knocked down to different effects, which is really nice. And then finally, Bluff is also really good because Bluff is essential for getting all sorts of special attacks. Also, I took Scion of Limbo. That's why there's fireworks going on in the background, because it was a joke. Outside of that, hide and move silently are also nice if you actually want to do some sneaking and some stealthing around. I actually put points into tumble and swim. You don't need points in tumble. You only really want one, so you're able to physically tumble, but you don't need more than one. And swim because I had nothing else to put my points into. As far as the feats went, this character is actually a single weapon fighter rogue. Now, the reason I went with single weapon fighting is because I wanted to try out the chain. Now, important thing to know about the chain is that you get it for free being a Shader Kai. So at level 1, which if you're a Shader Kai, you're actually level 15, but if you're on hardcore, you'd be level 1, you get spike chain attack. It says light melee weapon attack, and using a spiked chain, but the stats from your main hand weapon, perform 3 AoE melee attacks with +1 W, +1 critical threat range, and +1 critical threat multiplier. Your Shader Kai racial enhancements may add to this attack. Think of this like the Feats Cleave, but it hits 3 times, and it does way more damage, and it's way bigger AoE. So, I get a lot of questions. Can you use Assassinate with this? No, because Assassinate's a different button. This is a button. You press it, and it does a cleave, and it hits people. Some people wonder where the damage comes from. Your weapon. So whatever your weapon does, when you click and you hit somebody, that damage is what would go through on the chain. So that damage hits people all around you. Except it's more powerful because it has a higher critical threat range and critical threat multiplier. So when I press this button, every single thing that's around me is going to be getting hit by my chains and is going to be taking a huge amount of damage. Okay? However, this does not use your offhand attack. This attack can double strike, and it uses your main hand weapon, but it will not use your offhand. So since it doesn't, I wanted to pump up my main hand as much as possible, and that's why I went single weapon fighting. Notice that this says light melee weapon attack, which means this does not work with two-handed weapons, with the only exception being the Brilliant Crescent, because it is a light two-handed weapon, but you're probably never going to get one because you have to do Titan Awakes, and you probably shouldn't be doing that. Now, that being said, I went with single weapon fighting, so I took all the single weapon fighting feats as well as offhand versatility. Usually you would use an orb or a rune arm, but I can't use orbs or rune arms because I didn't take magical training or am being an artificer, so I just get extra damage by having an empty offhand. Other than that, this character took a few martial feats. I made sure to grab precision, improved feint. In my opinion, improved feint is one of the best abilities you can get as a rogue. It basically allows you to AoE bluff a bunch of guys. It makes an attack that bluffs many enemies, not just one, but many enemies, and allows you to sneak attack them, and this is essential, especially if you want to play while solo. Moving up into the epic difficulty, I grabbed improved sneak attack and overwhelming critical. Epic damage reduction, I grabbed dire charge and perfect single weapon fighting. I would have grabbed perfect two weapon fighting, but unfortunately I didn't actually have access to the primal destinies, so I couldn't actually take that feat, so I just took first blood instead. First blood's fine, but perfect two weapon fighting would have been a better option here because it gives 5% double strike regardless of your fighting style. For your legendary feat, I'd recommend taking Scion of the Shadowfell or Scion of Arborea, or not Shadowfell, Scion of the Ethereal Plane or Arborea. Both are fine. I think since this character has a lot of physical attacks pretty fast, you're probably going to want to go with Scion of the Ethereal Plane, especially considering it is a first life character, so getting that extra +4 skills bonus is quite nice. Now, one thing I wanted to talk about here is that moving up into the enhancement tree, there's a lot of specifics here with how this character works, so I kind of want to briefly go over some of the Shade Archive enhancements and which ones are good and which ones are bad. This character is kind of weird. I split my points up between the trees, Shade Archive, Assassin, Horizon Walker, and then just a little bit of Thief Acrobat for that 20% extra movement speed, because I like moving fast. Out of the Shade Archive tree, you're able to get bonuses to your actual chain attack, and a lot of these are very, very good. At the start, you get Vicious Chain. I would not recommend taking this beyond level 5. Have this up through level 5 because it adds a little bit of extra damage. But oh wait, you start at level 15 as a Shade Archive. Oh yeah. So yeah, don't take this pretty much ever at all. It's a D6 only, and that's not enough damage to ever be valuable at level 15 or beyond. So never take Vicious Chain. Unless you're on hardcore, then take it from 1 to 5, but even then you can probably just wholeheartedly skip it. I grabbed the Listen, Search, and Spot, which for me is more important as somebody who doesn't have access to, a lot of past lives, so I need the extra Search and Spot to be able to do stuff. However, you don't necessarily need that. You could go with the Stealthy if you wanted. You could go with the Student of Pain. Anything else is really fine if you don't really need the Listen, Search, and Spot. However, as you move up, you get Forceful Chain, which means your chain attacks will actually knock targets down based on your dexterity, which means being a dexterity-based character is very, very good. You get Ghastly Chain, where even if you don't hit anybody, this gives you 5% extra dodge, which is very, very good. You can use your chain attack while moving around, and so since you can just run around and chain people, this is a fantastic way if you need to kite while dealing damage. You'll be hitting monsters behind you with your chain and also giving yourself extra dodge. It makes it very, very versatile. Additionally, you get Displacement. This Displacement has a 3-second cooldown and costs nothing, so you can always displace yourself. There's no reason to, once you get this, to ever turn it off. So it's extremely good. On top of that, you also get sneak attack dice, and this ability here called Ghostly Essence, which is when you get knocked down to 25% hits, or 50% hits or lower, you automatically get some incorporeality, which then protects you from incoming attacks, making you very, very defensive in a pinch. And this has a 2-minute cooldown, but it's relatively short, which means you're capable of getting this off multiple times per quest. Obviously, you don't want to go that low, but this is how my character was able to run around in like Epic Elite and Legendary Reaper quests and not actually die, because the first or second hit might bring me below 50, but then nothing could hit me after that because of all of this extra incorporeality. And then finally, you get the Greater Spiked Chain Attack. Now, this Spiked Chain Attack has a longer cooldown, but it has even more critical threat range, even more critical threat multiplier, and even more W. It also has a second chance to knock people down, making this extremely strong. Like, it's crazy. Essentially, this character was able to just go Whip Chain 1, and then Whip Chains number 2, and all of a sudden, I'm able to attack extremely, extremely fast. So, if you're looking for something that's going to be very powerful, these two chain attacks are great. Additionally, I also use the Horizon Walker tree, which is a brand new tree just added with the most recent update, update 50. You can get it from the Salt Marsh, and this is primarily a bow tree, but the reason I used it is threefold actually. Number one, getting mark target. This is a mark that you place on an enemy, so you press a single button and it just marks the target. You can use this from stealth and it will not break stealth, and it also has no range limit, so as long as you can see a target, you can mark it. So as you're moving into combat, you can mark somebody. Your mark gets more powerful over time, and the mark that I had makes it so marked targets have a -2 penalty to saving throws, minus 20% fortification, and -6 to their armor class. As a first life character, my hit chance sucks, so reducing armor class is great on monsters. Additionally, getting the ability to reduce monsters' fortification is amazing, since there's lots of constructs and undead out there, and being able to just go, nope, sorry, your fortification is a little bit lower, making you able to critically hit and sneak attack them even better. And on top of that, the saving throws, well, sometimes you just gotta assassinate somebody. So that's even more helpful, or for your trip attacks. Out of the Horizon Walker tree, I picked up the planar dodge, a little bit of hit chance, as well as this skilled navigator, saving throws versus traps. I have bug reported this, but just in case, there's the compulsions. You're awarded from compulsions from mental control, or sorry, you're also awarded from magical, mental control, and compulsions. Doesn't actually work, unfortunately. So until that gets fixed, I wouldn't recommend putting 3 points in protection from good and evil. I took the extra saving throws versus traps, just because I know I'm a dexterity-based build, but it's not bad to get an extra 6 saving throws versus traps. And then the main reason I came in here was No Misstep, which is a special trance that actually works based on your dexterity. So it gives you extra DCs of tactical feats and bonus damage based on 1/2 your dexterity modifier. I don't have a lot, but if you're able to get close to like 80, 90 dexterity, this is really valuable as you move in towards the end game. Additionally, I also get haste here. And haste is really nice, because as a rogue, my character is somehow able to have haste and displacement up 100% of the time, level 20 and beyond. Displacement's always up, and then haste always up after level 20. It's very, very weird that I can do that, but hey, that's how rogues be sometimes. And the rest of the points go into Assassin Rogue. This is exactly how I've built Assassin Rogue before, so if you want a more thorough, detailed explanation from that, make sure you check out my trash remover video. I'll put a link in the description if you want something that's more focused and doesn't use Shader Kai Horizon Walker, just does some single target DPS here. Now, important note, this character is actually using a Kukri. One of the reasons I'm using a Kukri and not a dagger is because if I used a dagger, I would just use Vistani Knife Fighter, because Vistani Knife Fighter is really, 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 really good. I would just use Vistani. I wouldn't use Horizon Walker. I might not even use Shader Kai. I would just dump a bunch of points in Vistani because of how crazy Vistani is. Double strike, 100% offhand attack chance, +1 W, haste boost. This tree is really good. But I said I didn't want to do that, so I used a Kukri instead, and it worked just fine. You should still definitely use a dagger as opposed to a Kukri, even if you want to play it like this, just because daggers and Kukris end up becoming the same with this knife specialization, and there's more better daggers in the game than there are Kukris, because daggers are a popular weapon type, and Kukris have like 4 of them that exist at all. Although with the new Midnight Greetings coming back, that's actually what I'm using right here, and it's not too bad. As far as equipment goes for this character, I just used whatever I could get while leveling. So, you know, I got some rings here, Alluring Ring of Bluff. I got some Belt of Subtle Villainy that I got out of the Keep on the Borderlands. Most of the stuff are just things I picked up. I did epic craft one single item, which is the Epic Midnight Greetings Kukri. This Kukri is really nice because as a character who was just using whatever I could get, the extra improved deception made it so I had a lot of bluff. The finesse and assassinate was nice because the finesse actually gave me 9 to my dexterity. The assassinate was really good, and then the clever strike gave me extra damage based on my intelligence. And I put a Diamond of Constitution in it because I had a Diamond of Constitution 9, so this item is both my dex and my con item. It's really funny how that works, but overall, it was really fun to play, and I really enjoyed the character build here. Mostly, what you're going to be gearing out for is anything that's going to improve your trapping skills, so, you know, gloves, disable device. I crafted this one, disable device, insightful disable device. Goggles, search, insightful search. You want as much search as you can. You want as much disable as you can, so that way you can actually make sure you're getting all the traps and stuff. And then outside of that, anything offensive. Deadly, seeker, accuracy chance, deception, all of these are very good stats, as well as your core stats, dexterity, intelligence, constitution. That's pretty much it for this character. As far as the epic destinies go, you have a couple different options. I saw some people making some claims online, and so I tested out myself with the Grandmaster of Flowers, that if you pressed, not Grandmaster of Flowers, Fury of the Wild, if you press Adrenaline, that you would be able to just press Adrenaline and then use your chains attack, and then all of a sudden it would, like, use it, like the Adrenaline would hit everything, so it would knock down everybody and deal a bunch of damage. that doesn't work. It only hits the first target you hit. So of your triple chain attack, if you have 25 targets nearby you, which is the target limit for DDO, and you use chain, which hits 3 times, so that'd be 75 hits, only the first target hit by the first chain is going to get the adrenaline, and then all the other 74 hits are unaffected by adrenaline. So as a result of that, I would say Shadow Dance is probably going to be where you want to go with this character. Picking up 60 melee power, as well as an extra sneak attack dice per character level is really good. The insane range from Dark Imbuement is insane. The extra execute from Executioner Strike is really good. Shadow Form is really good. So Shadow Dancer. This is probably what you're going to do with Shadow Dancer. You may also consider putting some points here into Sealed Soul, which is also very good because it protects you from energy drain, and you don't really have a way to deal with that as a rogue, so that's not too bad. So that's probably how I would put this together. Anyways, that's all I have for you today about the Chains build. There's a lot more opportunities with Rogue that you can do, a lot of more builds you can try out and try to put together. Hopefully, you might try out your own Chains characters, not limited to Bard Swashbuckler, Barbarian using Strength and Raging and Hand Axes is really cool. I've seen some people trying out Chains with Eldritch Knights and having a lot of success. So don't limit yourself on what you can do with the Chains on this character. There's a lot of different options, and I think Chains are going to be a very long-lasting thing. We're going to see a lot of people playing Chains builds into the future. But with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoy what you saw, make sure you go to twitch.tv/Strimtom to check out some of the live stream. We're going to be making the next build very, very shortly for this character, and hopefully it'll be a fun one that you'll all like to see and enjoy, as I'm going to try it out using, again, some more of the new items and new gear that have been just updated with Update 50. And additionally, as I said before, if you need to get yourself a Chains shirt, link in the description, buy yourself a Chains shirt. Because this is really comfy. I'm very happy with this. I'm happy with the way the design came out, and so I hope you are too. Thank you for watching. I'm going to disappear into a pit of acid. Goodbye.